My parents always said family comes first. Unless you're the daughter. At the will reading, they looked me in the eye, then gave my brother everything: the house, and how to make it disappear without touching a single law, the land, the bank accounts, not even a photo album for me. But they forgot one thing: I worked in finance. I knew exactly where their retirement money was. They thought they could erase me from their legacy, so I made sure they'd remember me every time they opened their empty fridge.
They always said we were a close family. To outsiders, it looked perfect. My dad was a respected judge. My mom ran charity events, and my brother, Michael, was the golden boy from the moment he could walk. I was the daughter who knew when to smile and stay quiet. Me, I was the shadow behind their family portraits. The afterthought. Still, I showed up when they called. I visited every holiday. I sent flowers on birthdays. I played the good daughter because I believed deep down that maybe I'd finally be enough one day. That belief died the day the will was read. I sat in the corner, fingers clasped in my lap, trying to steady the shaking. The room smelled like polished wood and old books. My father's lawyer, Mr. Harold, always kept his office the same way since I was a teenager. Michael strolled in like he was walking into a boardroom, all smug grin and expensive cologne. He greeted me with a pat on the head like I was a dog. Then he dropped into the leather chair next to me without so much as a glance. Even though she hadn't to shed a single tear in the 3 days since Dad's heart attack. Mom was already seated, perfectly dressed in morning black. She gave me a once-over like she was scanning for flaws and found all of them. "Let's get this over with," she muttered. Harold cleared his throat and pulled out the envelope. It was thick, sealed with the family crest. I had no idea they even had one. He opened it slowly, his eyes scanning the lines. Then he began. As per the final wishes of Charles and Margaret Whitmore, his continued presence and his leadership. I held my breath. The estate, properties, investments, and all assets therein shall be passed to our beloved son, Michael Whitmore. I blinked. Wait, what? In recognition of his dedication to the family legacy, there was no mention of me. None. No trust. No small gift. No sentimental item. Not even a photo album. I mean, let's be real, Becky. You were never really into family stuff anyway. To our daughter, Rebecca, we wish her well in her journey. May she find her own way. That was it. May she find her own way. I felt the world blur around me. Michael's chair creaked as he leaned back with a smug sigh. "That's fair," he said, flipping the envelope over in his hands. He laughed. "And Mom?" She didn't say a word. She just picked up her bag, stood up, and walked to the door like nothing had happened. Like I didn't exist. I sat there long after they'd left. Harold gave me a sad look, the kind old men give girls they feel sorry for. "I'm sorry, Rebecca, this wasn't my call." I nodded. My throat burned, but I didn't cry. Not there, not yet. Instead, I asked one question. "Do you know where they're keeping their retirement accounts?" Harold blinked. "Excuse me?" I smiled, the first real smile I'd worn all day. I think it's time I found my own way. Like the will said. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in the parking lot outside Harold's office with the engine running, my hands on the steering wheel, watching people walk by like they weren't living in a world that had just turned upside down. A part of me still expected it to be a mistake, a joke. Maybe there'd be a second will, a secret addendum, a letter, something, but no. My parents had spent their entire lives building a legacy and decided I wasn't worth even a piece of it. And the worst part, I wasn't surprised. Flunked classes and lied through his teeth. Growing up, being the perfect daughter wasn't enough. I got straight A's. I volunteered at church. I didn't sneak out or party. They didn't even show up to orientation. I stayed quiet when Michael crashed cars. They threw him a party. They made excuses for him. He's just finding himself. He has leadership potential. He'll settle down when he's older. They'd say with champagne in hand. But Michael is the real heart of the family. When I got a scholarship to study finance at Columbia, but when Michael dropped out of college and decided to start a business with their money, I became invisible. Unless they needed something to brag about at a dinner party. She works in finance in New York. Still, I kept showing up. But I'd learned two things from managing rich people's retirement accounts. Every Christmas, every family birthday, every milestone Michael didn't earn. Because I believed stupidly, stubbornly, that loyalty meant something. It didn't. That night, I went back to my small one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn and pulled up my work laptop. I logged into every financial tool, database, and tracking software I had access to legal. Of course, I wasn't going to steal. I was going to strategize. My job at a private wealth firm wasn't flashy. Most wealthy people are lazy with their money. Almost all of them use the same handful of retirement advisors. And guess what? My parents were predictable. It took me 1 hour to track down their portfolio. They'd put everything into a joint retirement trust mid-risk bonds, a few real estate REITs, some tax shelters in Florida. Who had concerns about the structure of their retirement accounts and was reviewing similar portfolios for potential legal vulnerabilities, value just over $2.6 million. Fully vested, but poorly managed. That's where the door cracked open. I didn't want to bankrupt them. Not yet. That would be obvious. It would bring trouble, lawyers, suspicion, but influence? Influence could be silent, invisible. So I started making calls. I used my network, my credentials, and my charm. I spoke to their portfolio manager. Didn't mention I was their daughter, just that I was a financial consultant. They never suspected a thing, because no one ever suspects the daughter they forgot. That was the beginning. I wasn't going to hurt them. Not yet. I was going to make them meet me. I was going to become the one person who could fix what was broken after I broke it. And the best part? They would never see it coming. 2 weeks after the will reading, I got a text from my mother. Hope you're doing okay. Michael is taking care of everything now. We'll keep you in the loop. No, hi. No, how are you? No, I'm sorry this must have been hard for you. Just a casual declaration that my brother now controlled our family's future, and I'd officially been reduced to a footnote. Took a sip of my wine and smiled. I stared at the message for 5 whole minutes. Then I turned my phone off because by that time, I'd already inserted the first cracks into their perfect little financial world. You see, my parents didn't know much about how their money actually worked. They trusted advisors to manage it. They nodded at reports. They thought diversification meant buying both American and European stocks. But me, I knew their portfolio inside out now. I'd created a mirror version of their holdings, not with their names, of course, but close enough to track identical patterns. I called it the Ghost Fund. Every time their investments moved, mine did too. Every time a dividend was issued, I saw it. I could see every drop, every dollar, every potential loss. I wasn't robbing them. Not yet. I was watching. And when I saw how vulnerable they were, how badly their advisor had structured their retirement plan, that's when I got to work. The leverage play, I didn't need to drain their account. All I had to do was create instability. The advisor starts panicking. I began making anonymous inquiries through lawyer contacts about legal inconsistencies in their trust structure. Polite letter informing them that their current advisor was transitioning clients and recommending they seek new financial guidance. It doesn't take much, just 1 or 2 well-placed questions, and suddenly, especially if that advisor knows he's been cutting corners. Within a month, my parents received a cold. His tone overly casual. Hey, Mom and Dad are kind of freaking out. Something about their retirement guy quitting. Do you know anyone? You're the family's decision maker now, right? My parents, who knew nothing about finance, did what most people like them do. They called Michael. Becky, Michael said on the phone that night. I smiled. God, it felt good. Actually, I said sweetly, I do. But I'm sure you've got it covered. He was quiet for a second, then, well, yeah, but you do work in finance. So if you could just send over some suggestions, I did better than that. We can't afford to lose it. I offered to help personally, and just like that, they invited me back in. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating. My mother called me a few days later, her voice unusually soft. Rebecca, I know things were difficult, but we'd appreciate your help. Your father built that portfolio over decades. Can't afford. Funny, coming from the people who told me to earn my own, but I played my part. I gave them conservative, boring advice, nothing risky, nothing flashy, just stability. I was rebuilding their trust, so I could be the one to break it later. But something unexpected happened along the way. Michael got suspicious. He always had a nose for threats. He just wasn't as smart enough to know what to do with them. One night, he showed up at my door unannounced. Three-piece suit, expensive watch, eyes full of fake charm. Becky, he said, why are you doing this? I shrugged. Because I'm so family. Yeah, but you didn't get anything. There it was, the line. You got cut out. They didn't leave you a cent, so why help them now? I looked him straight in the eye and said, because sometimes, Michael, you don't need to inherit the crown. You just need to control the kingdom. His face twitched. He didn't understand what I meant, not yet, but soon. He would. Control doesn't always come from power. Sometimes it comes from being the only one in the room who knows what's really going on. And after Michael left my apartment that night, confused and irritated by a sentence he didn't fully understand, I knew I was in full control now. Over the next month, I became my parents' unofficial financial advisor. We didn't call it that, of course. My mother would never admit she needed me. She'd just say things like, Rebecca, I know you're busy, but could you take a quick look at these numbers? Or, we've been getting notices about rebalancing something. Is that normal? I answered every question, kindly, calmly, like the dutiful daughter they never truly deserved. I tightened the strings around their money, and with each call, each spreadsheet I reviewed, not to steal. Not yet, just to own the direction of every decision they made. The moves behind the curtain, I restructured their trust. Legally and efficiently. Filed everything under their names, of course, but with layered dependencies. They didn't know that I set their liquidity to staggered withdrawals. They didn't know that I capped their cash flow to quarterly payouts. They didn't know that I was now the point of contact for their new advisory firm. I was the one holding the remote. They were just watching the screen. Meanwhile, Michael started to feel the shift. He was used to walking into our parents' home like he owned it, ordering deliveries on their dime, using their guest house for his affairs. He even parked in Dad's old garage spot. But now, the budgets were tighter. The statements were different. The bank wasn't clearing every purchase like before. He complained. He huffed. He sent texts to me at 1 a.m. about financial red tape and weird security protocols. I ignored every single one because I didn't owe him anything. Then came the favor. He's asked if we can support him with a short-term loan. Mom called me early one morning, her voice carefully composed. Rebecca, your brother wants to start a new venture. I already knew. Michael's latest idea was a luxury vintage motorcycle app. One wish I were joking. It's just a bridge loan, she continued. Only $150,000? She said it like she was asking me to pass the salt. I paused, then replied, I'd advise against it. Silence. He believed in crypto pyramids and NFTs shaped like eggs last year. Then Michael believes in it? Of course he does. You think you're gonna win just because you know some numbers? You asked for my help, I said gently, and my advice is not to lend. At least not without terms and collateral. She hung up. That evening, Michael texted me, "You think you're smart, huh?" I didn't reply, because it wasn't about numbers anymore. It was about respect. The kind I was finally earning from people who had never given me a dime. 2 weeks later, they told Michael no. For the first time in his adult life, our parents said no. He didn't take it well. He showed up at their house in the middle of the night, screaming about betrayal, about manipulation, about me. "She's turning you against me," he yelled. "She's just helping," my mother replied. "She's a vulture in a pencil skirt." That part made me laugh when I heard about it later, because vultures only circle when something's already dying. What Michael didn't realize was that I wasn't just cutting him off financially. I was taking the one thing he valued even more, their attention. For once in his life, he wasn't the center of the family's orbit. I was, and I hadn't even raised my voice. Michael had never heard the word no and believed it. Not from our parents, not from women, not from the universe. So when they finally said it, when they told him they wouldn't fund his latest business idea, he didn't just get angry. He unraveled. He started showing up more, uninvited, unhinged. One afternoon, I got a call from my mother. Her voice trembled not with fear, but embarrassment. "Michael kicked over a chair in the sunroom today. Said we'd regret choosing you." I imagined him standing in that perfectly decorated space, the room with the white carpet and untouched furniture, throwing a tantrum like a toddler. "He called us traitors," she added quietly, "like we abandoned him." I almost said welcome to my world, but I bit my tongue. Instead I said, or denied, "You've always protected him from reality." "Mom, he's not used to being questioned." She didn't deny it. She just sighed. "What do we do now?" And that's when I knew they were mine, fully, finally. Michael didn't disappear, though. He dug in. He started calling the new financial firm, my firm, pretending to be acting on my parents' behalf. He asked for documents. He tried to override permissions. He even accused the firm of fraud, but it didn't work. Because the moment I took over as their advisor, I had every line of access rerouted, every pen reset, every file double encrypted. He could scream all he wanted, but he couldn't touch the money anymore. He was cut off. So he did what weak men always do when they run out of control. He tried to destroy everything. The ambush. One rainy Thursday afternoon, I left work late and found him waiting by my car in the underground garage. His suit was wrinkled, his hair slicked back with sweat, his face flushed with rage and desperation. "You think you're finally the golden child? You think you've won?" he spat, stepping into my path. "You think they love you now? I just needed you to get out of the way." I didn't flinch. "I don't need to be the golden child," I said. He lunged forward, not violently, but close enough for his breath to hit my face. "I swear to God, Becky, you're going to wish you were never born. They'll see what you're doing. You're turning them against me." "No," I said calmly. "You're doing that all by yourself." He backed off, but his eyes were wild, panicked. "You're going to regret this," he muttered. "Already been there," I replied. Then I opened my car door, got in, and drove away. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel afraid of him. I felt nothing. The decision that night, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the ghost fund, the reflection of their retirement account. $2.6 million, invested, diversified, fragile. They trusted me now, completely. I hadn't touched $1. I hadn't stolen a cent, but I could. And that thought, not the act, just the possibility, made me realize I had more power than I ever imagined. I opened a blank notepad, typed one line, how to make them feel it without ever breaking the law. Then I smiled, because I didn't need to be a thief. I just needed to make them panic. And I knew exactly how.